Hi guys, how are you? It's Dr. Pam, owner of Academic Coaching for World Changers. And I realize I probably haven't released a new video to the public in just a bit. We are really busy. It is our season. This is when lots of people test, and I can't wait to get in with us because we are the very best at what we do. But we really love when you tune in to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We release videos often. And also remember our podcast channel is where you're really going to hear questions without all the feedback. What we release is our group of sessions that we've tutored. And remember, if I released it in 2019 or 2025, they're all still dead. I promise you, Freud did not wake up and write any more theories. So if you're watching our videos, it doesn't really matter if it's old or new. And I know that you hate the longer videos, but I promise you, those are the best. If you're tutoring with us, we'll always remind you that we want you to study. We want you to study 15 hours a week. That is 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. That also looks like that you are not trying to memorize things. You're really just trying to learn them. The way we teach is based on research. It's based on neurotransmitters and how your brain works. There's some things in life, and in an individual session, many times I'll ask you, what was your favorite Michael Jackson song? This is Bentley Cooper, by the way, if you haven't met him before. I'll ask you what was your favorite Michael Jackson song and sing me a few words. And almost everybody can give me a few words. He's been dead for 25 years. Why do we know those songs, or whoever your favorite artist is? You know them because back in the day, right, we only had a few radio stations and all of us couldn't afford albums. And so we listened to the radio and we heard the same songs over and over and over again. That's how you learn anything. We're not trying to get you to memorize, we're just trying to get you to learn. I will give you a couple of mnemonics, but not many, because you're already a good therapist. Whether you're a social worker, whether you're doing drug and alcohol treatment, you're already good at what you do. What you like is test taking skills. And that's what we do differently than other agencies. So let's look at my question. Okay. So this belongs to everybody that's in the mental health field. My question says, which of the following would not be typically included as part of the clinician's formal MSE, mental status exam? Now, first of all, they're not going to be highlighted like that. I did that on purpose because we want to look at the most important words. We always remember it's a reading test. It's a reading test. And so many of you just skip to the answers and go back and I say, prove it to me in the question. And you're like, what? You're focused on the answers. You're not even reading the question. And you'll never pass that way. If you're missing by 4, 5, 6, right? You're not reading the questions. Okay, so in this typical question, if this is an individual session or a small group session, we would focus on, first of all, what the question asks us. It's a not question, so I know that 3 of these are right, right? So when I rule out, I'm going to rule out at least 2 of them that I know exactly are true. But I also need to make sure that I understand an MSE, a mental status exam. I also need to understand that how we use it in my office doesn't matter for the test. Unless you see your first name, your last name, your agency, everybody takes the same test. We don't care what you do in your agency. I will promise you that many agencies use an MSE exam every time a client comes in. That borders on unethical. Please don't go to your agency on Monday, as Dr. Pam said, but it does. So you're charging for another sheet of paper that I probably don't need. If you have a car accident, if the paramedics come, they're going to ask you the same questions on the mini MSE. So if you're not sure what that looks like, let me share my screen with you. By the way, I always have 4 screens, so it takes a minute to kind of get to the different screens. So you should be seeing my MSE. My MSE, and this is called a mini mental status exam, and everyone that's watching this video is capable of doing it. Okay. So what I really want to know is what I see in front of me. I cannot diagnose with an MSE. Yes, I may be hallucinating, but it could be lots of different things. It doesn't mean I'm schizophrenic. And remember, brief psychotic disorder is at least 3 days to 30 days. So just because I'm hallucinating, it may be delirium. It may not necessarily be a psychotic episode. So let's continue to look at the MSE. So I'm looking at the client's appearance, How were they dressed? Disheveled, knowing those words, right? Disheveled means I look like I partied all night and went to work the next day in the same clothes. I know that's none of you. That might have been me in my earlier years. I'm old now. Nah, if I party all night, I'm gonna sleep the next day. But back in the day, right? I might have gone out and partied all night on a Thursday and went to work in the same outfit, trying to, dress it down a little bit. So disheveled, like, my clothes are wrinkled, my hair's not done, I'm a mess. Inappropriate would be that it's the middle of winter and I'm wearing a tank top. And bizarre is literally what that means, that they are dressed so bizarrely. I think about schizoaffective disorder and schizoid. I'm sorry, no, sorry, schizoid and schizotypical. Schizotypical are that are bizarrely dressed. You'll know, right? They're wearing headphones. I'm sorry, earmuffs in the middle of the summer. Like, that's not normal. Something's wrong with that. Okay. Again, this is only based on what I see. Their speech, their eye contact, their motor activity. The motor activity is am I over agitated? I can't sit down. I'm walking back and forth across the room. I may be a bipolar 1 episode, or it may be a drug episode as well. Oh my gosh, can I tell you, today was the best day ever? And I can't sit still. You see me like shaking back and forth, and I can't sit still. Or maybe I'm sitting too still. Sorry, guys. Princess Milan decided she wanted to be part of the video as well. Okay, maybe not. So anyway, now my affect. I get a lot of clients that struggle with this. The affect is the look on your face that should match your mood. Yes, I love tutoring. You believe me? In family theory, with a strategic family therapy, that's sometimes called the double bind, because what's coming out of my mouth doesn't match my body. It can also be called incongruent. But in the MSE, all I'm looking for is, does it match? So does my affect match with what I'm saying? Constricted means it's like I have to go potty and I can't potty. Flat, right, means it's totally flat. So schizophrenic might really say to you, today is the best day ever. If you hang out with me when I'm tutoring you, I'm like, hey, yo, tune in for it's our Friday night, Saturday night tutoring session, because I really love what I do. And it really should show that I love what I do. It's not an act. I want you to get this stupid sheet of paper. Okay. So that's your affect. Affective disorder, AFECTIVE, is the same thing many times as a mood disorder. That's a clinical term that you need to know. So my mood, remember, I am euphemic, anxious, angry, depressed, euphoric, irritable, etc. Cognitions are my thoughts. You might see the word schema. Schema only belongs to the way that I think. That would be Beck, or as I grow and think, that would be Piaget. My schematic view of the world is what that's looking for. Okay. So orientation times 3. Do you know who you are, where you are, who's the president? Again, if you've ever had even a minor car accident, the airbags didn't have to deflate. The paramedics come, they're going to ask you those questions. By the way, the one that we most recently or the one that we might the most common one of our sensorium, that's that term. Sensorium is the person, place, and thing, and time. The one that we most commonly lose is time. I'm sure none of you've done this, but maybe I took a nap in the middle of the afternoon, and I woke up not knowing what day it is. So sensorium, the one that we most likely lose, is going to be time. Okay. My memory impairment, they may ask you, remember these 3 words: cow, dog, cat. And they'll come back at the end of the interview and ask you the same 3 questions again to make sure you remember those words. Your perception, are you hallucinating? Do you hear and see things that other people don't hear and see? My thoughts, do I have suicidal thoughts? Do I have homicidal thoughts? My behavior, my insight. Remember, insight is almost the test. Is almost always a Freudian term. We look at interventions. Do you get why you behave that way? Okay. I was walking down the middle of the street and drinking naked, and I don't know why I was doing that. You have no insight, limited insight. And judgment is, did you make good choices? But remember, an MSC only measures what I see right in front of me. I cannot diagnose with an MSC. Okay. So that's one of the most important things to remember. So I can talk about how you look, how you present, but only right now at this moment in time. So let's go back to my question then. Now that you understand an MSE. And again, when we're talking about test questions, that's what I really want you to do always is understand the question first. Before I looked at any of those answers, did I understand what they were asking me? And especially if you're taking practice test questions, please stop trying to just get them right. Understand, because if you understand, you'll every time you see an MSC on the test, you'll know what it means. But so many of you are just focused on getting the test questions right. And you come to me because you've taken the test 2, 3, 4 times and you don't understand why. And I'll ask you, what did you study? Well, I used Pocket Prep, I used the Purple Book, I used blah, blah, blah. You just took questions. You didn't understand content. If you understand content and how test questions are written, you would never, ever, ever fail a test again. So let's stick with my 4 answers, okay? Appraisal of global intellectual capacity and abstract reasoning, observation of general appearance, motor behavior, and effective expression, evaluation of perception, memory, and orientation to person, place, and time, and D, exploration of interpersonal attachments and significant relational patterns. Now, first of all, there are lots of words here, and I just want to scream, why can't they just write it simple? Because the writers assume that you are working at the postgraduate level. You have a master's degree, and you're a master's person, and the test is written for upper middle class white people that have a huge vocabulary. And one of the issues a lot of my clients have is you don't have the vocabulary. So what I teach you in individual or small group sessions is to always keep the closed caption on your TV. And especially if American English is not your first language, you're going to struggle. There are terms, there are idioms that are American idioms. And if I learned English from if I learned European or British English, I still don't understand. We can talk all day whether it's fair or not, but I know that you can't change the test until you're on the other side, until you're at the opportunity where you can actually write test questions. And that's always an option. Please understand, after you've been in the field for a while, you've gotten experience, they always look for test writers. So that's what I want you to do, is to understand it's not about you. The test is not about coming to get you. Everybody takes the exact same test. So it's a not question. So I'm going to go back and say what definitely I know is true. Appraisal of global intellectual capacity and abstract reasoning. That is true. Your global intellectual functioning just talks about IQ. It talks about what everybody in the world thinks is a normal IQ. So when I ask you questions, right, and I ask you to remember things, I'm just looking at your normal intellectual compared to everybody else's. Abstract reasoning, we can take that back to Piaget. Piaget said, remember SPCF, some people can fly. He said, in my concrete stage, not everybody gets abstract reasoning. Some people stay in the concrete stage, they'll never get there. But that would be part of a typical MSC. And remember, I'm being compared to everybody else. It's an assessment tool that everybody uses. Observation of general appearance. I talked about that. Was she dressed appropriately? Did she wear her hoochie mama shorts and her little skinny tank top and it's 30 degrees below? Her motor behavior, and I mentioned your affect, the look on your face. So I know that A and B are true. So I can take A and B out. Remember, it's a not question. So I'm taking out definitely what is true. So now what I want you to do is get down to the last 2. You're down to C and D. If you're taking a 3-question exam, it's a little bit harder, but I still want you to rule out at least one. And even if you think you know the answer, please go through the process. Because a lot of times when you're on the test and your anxiety is so high, you see narrative family therapy and you're looking for the one word that belongs to narrative, and you really haven't read the questions. So now between the C and D, evaluation of perception, memory, orientation to person, place, and time, or exploration of interpersonal attachments and significant relational patterns. Can I explore your relationship patterns in that one session? I can ask you if you're married or single. I can ask you if you're in a relationship. Can I determine if that's a good relationship? Can I determine? And when I think of interpersonal attachment, my first thought is to go back to Margaret Mailer, right? Margaret Mailer talks about, did you bond with that first caregiver the first 3 years of life? I can't prove that in a using an MSE. So of course, the one that I'm going to rule out is C, and my answer is going to be D. I always want you to learn how to answer questions. If you spend time with us, and if you're taking questions to learn, I don't care if you get it right. I care if you know why you got it right. Because if you know why you got it right, Beck calls it Socratic questioning, then you'll get all the others always right. Okay. Remember, my MSC is a structured observational and interview assessment. It looks at their client's current cognitive, emotional, and behavioral functions. So D, I can't explore your attachments. I can ask you if you're married or single, but the MSC is this one snapshot of what's happening right now. Guys, I hope that you really learned something from this video. This is the questions. They're how we ask the questions. And remember, we now have our own place to answer questions. We have a Brainscape. We have partnered with them. We did start off endorsing Pocket Prep, but Pocket Prep would not allow us to write questions the way that we wanted to write questions. And we want to write questions that are more similar to all the exams. So check us out on Brainscape. I'll put the link below. And again, when you're taking test questions, if you choose to do that, this is how you need to learn. We always say, study. Let me be in your head. Let me be in your head 15 hours a week, and you'll pass the exam just once, just once. Thanks, guys, for tuning into this video. Remember to subscribe and like. And if you're struggling, sign up for some individual or some small group sessions. You are worth the investment. I promise you.